In this video, we're continuing the Standard Descriptive Characteristics series. As you probably know by now, I love the standard descriptive characteristics because they are a great way for anyone to be able to quickly access the rules that govern a particular motion in a meeting. There are 8 standard descriptive characteristics for each motion, and in this video we will be covering the characteristic known as in order when another has the floor. So what does this characteristic tell us? Well, it's all right there in the title. It tells us whether the motion we looked up can be made by a member while another individual has the floor. What's the significance of this? Well, there is a very important general rule in parliamentary law that only one person speaks at a time, and a member must be recognized by the chair before speaking. This means that while one member has the floor, no one can interrupt that member to make a motion. Instead, you must be recognized by the chair before you can make a motion. Robert's Rules of Order provides, before a member in an assembly can make a motion or speak in debate, he must obtain the floor. That is, he must be recognized by the chair as having the exclusive right to be heard at that time. However, as is the case with most rules, this rule has some exceptions. Under certain circumstances, certain motions can be made while another has the floor. And of course, before you interrupt a member who has the floor to make your own motion, you'll want to be absolutely sure that this is in order for that particular motion and under the current parliamentary situation. Let's start by looking at how a motion is generally made. Step 1 is that a member seeks recognition by saying, Madam President, or Mr. Chairman, as the case may be. The chair then recognizes the member, for example, by saying, the chair recognizes the member. At that point, the member is said to have the floor, and from there, the member may make a motion, for example, by saying, I move that 3 new desk chairs be purchased for the office. If the motion receives a second, the chair places it before the assembly, and the members take turns speaking in debate on the motion. Now let's say a member thinks the office actually needs 5 new desk chairs instead of 3, but the member doesn't have the floor. Another member currently has the floor and is speaking in debate. Can this member interject with this motion to amend by striking out 3 and inserting 5? Absolutely not. The member must first be recognized by the chair, which means that the member will have to wait until the member who is currently speaking yields the floor. Once this happens, the member who wishes to make the amendment may seek the floor by saying, Madam President. And once recognized, the member may then make the motion to amend. So how do we know that the member can't interrupt to make the amendment? How can we verify this? Well, if we grab our copy of Robert's Rules of Order newly revised 12th edition and turn to the section on the motion to amend, which is section 12 by the way, we would flip one page to find the standard descriptive characteristics right there in paragraph 7. Remember, the standard descriptive characteristics always contain 8 headings, and they're always in the same order, which makes them very easy to access. What we're concerned with now is whether the motion is in order when another has the floor, and that is standard descriptive characteristic number 3. Now, you don't have to memorize that it's number 3. You can just scan the headings as you scroll down, and you will quickly find what you're looking for. So, scrolling down to number 3, we see that it says, is out of order when another has the floor. There's the rule, and that lets the member know that one must first obtain the floor before making the motion. And it also lets the chair know that she must rule the motion out of order if it is made while another has the floor. And this is going to be true of most motions. For example, the main motion and all of the subsidiary motions contain the exact same language under standard descriptive characteristic number 3, is out of order when another has the floor. If we move up to the motion call for the orders of the day, which is the parliamentary term by which a member can require the assembly to return to its proper business, we see the following under standard descriptive characteristic number 3. If in order at the time, is in order when another has the floor, even if it interrupts a person speaking. And it certainly makes sense that if the purpose of your motion is to return to the proper business, you wouldn't have to wait to make that motion. And Robert's Rules of Order makes it clear that you can even interrupt a person who is speaking. Now, if we jump up to the next privilege motion on the list, raise a question of privilege, we see that standard descriptive characteristic number 3 is slightly different for this motion. It states, is in order when another has the floor if warranted by the urgency of the situation. In such cases, the raising of a question of privilege is in order after another has been assigned the floor and before he has begun to speak. It cannot interrupt a member who is actually speaking unless the object of the question of privilege would otherwise be defeated. So we see that this is a bit different than the case of calling for the orders of the day, which may interrupt one who is speaking. As for cases where the object of the question of privilege would be defeated by not interrupting the member who is speaking, we will cover that in detail in the video on raising a question of privilege, where we will also cover what a question of privilege is. For now, let's jump ahead to the motion to recess for a quick question. What do you think standard descriptive characteristic number 3 says for the motion to recess? Does it say, is in order when another has the floor? Or does it say, is out of order when another has the floor? What would your answer be? Pause the video if you'd like more time. The correct answer is out of order when another has the floor. And the same is true of the motions to adjourn and fix the time to which to adjourn. For comparison, if we continue forward to the incidental motions, we see that the motion point of order contains the following language under standard descriptive characteristic number 3. Is in order when another has the floor, even interrupting a person speaking or reading a report, if the point genuinely requires attention at such a time. The point of this video is not to teach you which motions are in order when another has the floor. The point is to demonstrate the quick and easy ways to locate and understand this information. From section 10 through 37 of Robert's Rules of Order, each section is dedicated to a motion or group of related motions, and within the first few paragraphs of each of these sections, you will find the standard descriptive characteristics for that motion or group of motions. Scanning down to the third entry in the standard descriptive characteristics, you will find whether that motion is in order when another has the floor. For example, let's say we wanted to know whether a motion to reconsider is in order while another has the floor. One effective approach is to open Robert's Rules of Order newly revised 12th edition to the contents portion located in the first few pages of the book. There you will see the headings for the 63 sections of the book. If we flip to section 10, where the section on motions start, we can quickly scan through each section name until we arrive at the name of the motion we're seeking, reconsider. We'll notice that the location of the standard descriptive characteristics is shown for each motion along the way, including our motion, but we don't need to bother looking at the page number. All we need is the section number that aligns with the motion we want to find. In this case, it's section 37. With that information, we can flip through Robert's Rules of Order until we arrive at section 37. Then we'll just make sure we start at the front of that section and scan through the paragraph headings until we see that old familiar standard descriptive characteristics heading. When we scan down to entry number 3, we will find one of the most interesting entries contained in Robert's Rules of Order. Is in order with respect to making the motion, even after another person has been assigned the floor, so long as he has not actually begun to speak. Now, there's a lot more to the motion to reconsider, and even a lot more to its standard descriptive characteristic of whether or not it is in order when another has the floor, because reconsider is one of the most interesting and procedurally complex motions in parliamentary law. But don't worry, we will cover all of those details in the video on reconsider. Another actually quicker way to access information about any particular motion is to flip to the tinted pages in the back of Robert's Rules of Order. When we say tinted pages, we're talking about this thin section of pages near the back of the book, which are tinted gray. These tinted pages have their own page numbers that start at T1 and continue through T52. Starting on tinted page 6, there is a table of motions that runs through tinted page 33. This includes 98 entries, so you'd be hard-pressed to come up with a motion that isn't covered on this list. Now, the first motion in the list is the main motion, because everything starts with the main motion. But after that, every motion on the list appears in alphabetical order. So let's say we want to know whether a motion for division of a question is in order when another has the floor. This motion proposes that the pending question be divided into 2 or more parts, each to be considered separately. So, do I have to wait my turn to make this motion, or can I make it while another has the floor? Well, we simply look up division of a question on the table of rules relating to motions. So we'll flip to the D's and work our way to division of a question. This table spans across 2 pages, and across the top of the pages we see the categories that are covered. The first column tells us the class of the motion. The next column tells us whether the motion is in order when another has the floor. Then, whether it must be seconded, whether it's debatable, whether it's amendable, what vote is required to adopt the motion, and whether or not it can be reconsidered. So if we look to the column 4, in order when another has the floor, we see the answer is no. Division of a question is not in order when another has the floor. These tinted pages are a great tool to know how to use, and they work wonderfully for quick reference inside a meeting. You will also notice that the entry shows a parenthetical number in bold, and that number represents the pertinent section number or section numbers in Robert's Rules of Order, where you can find additional information on the motion. In this case, we see that section 27 is where we would go to learn more about the motion division of a question. If you flip farther into the tinted pages, to tinted pages 44 and 45, there is one more resource that gives an overview of which motions are in order when another has the floor, broken down into those that do not require a second and those that do. These are further segregated into those that can interrupt a person speaking in debate and those that cannot. Since there are only 16 entries in these categories and almost 100 in the full list, we see that most motions are out of order when another has the floor. But we have quick access to the list of the exceptions here, and we can almost safely assume that if it's not on this list, it is out of order when another has the floor. That covers standard descriptive characteristic number 3, which tells us whether a motion is in order when another has the floor.